What is up, guys? Wraec is here with new video, and well, we are expecting a new Voidboss very soon. It is already live on TapTap. We talked about that already, and I think it might arrive tomorrow. I have no certain info on that, but as I think the earliest date where we could expect it is tomorrow on the Wednesday. Oftentimes there are updates around that time. Maybe on the Friday or even later, we don't know, but I personally will keep my eye out tomorrow. So today, basically for me, is the perfect day to think about my approach to it, how I want to tackle those levels, how I want to defeat the boss, and what I consider, well, I will let you have part in it, and I will let you know about my thoughts on this new boss and what I will take away from the old bosses as well. So let's start with exactly that. The old bosses, we saw two. The first one, where we had no soul power, basically was very difficult, and one of the major challenges we faced here when beating this boss was even inflicting enough damage to it to kill it, and that was only possible at that time with an LFA. I had a 2 divine power LFA and could kill it, and one of the mechanics that was used for this boss and is still used in lower power attempts, I would say, is that the minions, the small minions that the boss has, is accompanied by, we should say, they were pretty weak, not really doing a whole lot of damage, and could be used to generate shields with HHA and also to get energy on your heroes, and the more energy regeneration you have, basically the more damage you do. And this was used on this boss because the main one, you wanted to kill the main boss, the big one, as soon as possible. And yeah, you relied on the energy regeneration from those minions because you had to run Crown. You couldn't really run Energy Feed without dying. So that was one thing. On the second boss, this was a whole other story. So now on the second boss, it had higher divine power, but we also had higher divine power. We had way higher divine power. And the theme of this boss was supposed to be control CC. And we out-CC'd this boss basically with TBB. We just run TBB and kept the minions CC'd that way. And that is an approach that I think is particularly worth it if the minions or of the boss are threatening in some way. On this boss, you obviously face the threat of CC. CC can be very devastating. If those minions, for example, with a basic attack CC your main damage dealer, well, you won't deal very much damage in this round. So keeping those locked down was basically the key to this fight, but we have to be precise. The boss didn't really do a whole lot, so that was one thing. And now we face the new boss, and the question arises, what is this new boss going to do? What are we going to see? Well, first of all, we are of course going to see a little divine power buff. Usually the first boss that we saw here has 1 divine power more than the last one. The first one started with 2 divine power. Second one started with 3 divine power, and then it's +1 divine power per level. Well, not +1 divine power per level, +1 divine power every second level, I think it was. Yeah, every second level, and then ended on 7 divine power, the other one on 6, and the next one will probably end on 8. Something like that. This is about what we expect. And this is not very strong, really, given that, well, at the top end, we are looking at like 10 divine power now, maybe after we killed this third Void boss, 11 divine power or even 12. 12 divine power I think is possible then with the Destiny rank 6-0 and the next temple level that also gives 1 divine power. We'll see 12 divine power. When we defeat this boss or when we fight this boss, we will look at 10 divine power at the highest. But even if we look at our team now, we very much have heroes around this high end, even above that. If we think about 8 divine power at the top end, we can very much match that. So divine power is not really an issue here. It will help us on the earlier stages, and well, on the later stages will be pretty much negated, though. On the LFA, for example, we have this divine power buff, have the higher divine power, and will have some advantage from the divine power gap. So the question now is it like the first boss, where we will be in a situation where we struggle to do enough damage? Or will it be like the second boss, where we just keep the minions CC'd and negate any attack by them just to offset a negative effect that would otherwise be placed on our team as a burden and would result in some losses maybe? So in my opinion, I think the minions will either deal no damage at all, or they will be very threatening, which is kind of difficult to assess right now. It depends on the stats they scale on them. I will go with the secure route and will use my TBB on the first stages just to keep those minions CC'd. And then later on I will have to see from some videos from people who took another approach how they survive. I have, well, kind of anxious about those minions maybe having some insane damage over time effect. And damage over time in this game, for example, means we have a bit of a problem, because let's just read that. Bleed is just an example. When bleed is inflicted, it will cause damage once. During its effectiveness, it will cause damage at the end of each round. So that means we'll take a big damage hit from this damage over time effect once it's inflicted. So Dot is very bursty in that sense, but it can stack up. The more enemies attack, the more damage over time on our heroes. Maybe they inflict the damage over time that lasts 15 rounds. We don't know that yet, and that could for sure be a threat. And that is one of the things we definitely want to counter on this boss. So I designed a team around that theme. This is the team that I thought might be interesting or might be good for this boss. Definitely running TBB here, though we are not running TBB with an energy artifact, which I used against the second Voidboss. Yeah, pretty conservative approach. It is like the I just don't want to risk anything approach, I would say, because we're running a very defensive setup. We are running just an offensive setup on the LFA, who can take it. Yes, the Divine Power here can take it. A lot of support. We have CC, we have TBB for CC, and of course we will get hit in the first round. The enemy will be faster. We have PDE. If there are some active skills from the boss that can also inflict CC, we don't know that yet. Other than that, the idea with PDE on this team is not really the CC side of her skills, but that she grants us Mystical Whale for dodge, also has some other buff effects that she can provide for us, has some heal. We have all damage reduction, stuff like that can really help in the fight. And of course we have to see that she has a lot of divine power, she has her destiny skills, we can also make use of that. Some more Mystical Veil, some more heal, we have all damage reduction in here, we have holy damage in here. So we have some pretty good stuff there. And also, if you look at that, I thought about using HHA, because HHA is a very good choice. But then again, if I use TBB and I can keep the minions of the boss CC, then we will just have one attacker, which is not very good, not very good situation for HHA. It doesn't provide much sustain there, which is why on my earlier CC team that I used a few months ago in PvP, I also switched to Ferric Vesa. We have Ferric Vesa here, we have 8 divine power on her, so we'll make use of that to keep our team healthy and equipped with shields. We have PDE to also support that. We get a little bit of heal from the DGN, and that will probably be enough. On top of that, we run the Star Alchemist Storm's Young Core, which also gives us some heal. We can see there every time we get hit, there is some HP restoration. We have that, of course, on the maximum level on the Core Liberation 8, so that's 16% attack and then 8% HP restoration. And we'll make use of that in the way that we also try to transport or to duplicate this attack buff to our LFA with DGN. That might also be fairly interesting in terms of buffing our power. Put them all in the back row here. Hopefully some of those enemies hit the back row or have some specific target. Another layer of our security, I would say, to keep our LFA alive mainly, is also in Ferric Vesa. Because one thing that I could see them doing is really attacking lowest life and really doing a whole lot of damage against the lowest life. And what better hero to take this hit than Ferric Vesa, who just can't take crit damage, with 8 divine power on her, with this new auspicious lucky cat that I just used for, well, I expected to take multiple rounds to defeat this boss. If they balanced it, made it a strong enemy, especially at the later levels, might take multiple rounds, well then we can scale a bit with that, keep some all damage reduction, have some HP control immunity as well. So she hopefully gets very tanky at that point, and this will also help us defeat those the bosses. If you saw my last video, where I also, by the way, showed the rewards that we will expect from the new boss, you also saw that the enemy has one ability that triggers on block, or might have one ability that triggers on block. The Realmsgate version has that. So what I did also was I put precision on all of my heroes. Precision just to offset the enemy's block, depending on how much block this guy has. That might also be a problem for him and keep him from blocking most of our hits. We could also scale a bit of precision if we ran HHA, which was a consideration, but it was something that I discarded later on. I thought, like, maybe, well, probably not really worth it in the end. I don't think the block effect will be that devastating. I think keeping the minions from attacking might be one key to it, and then maybe we'll have to get more offensive towards the end. I could see this boss being a boss where you either want to be very defensive and keep a lowest life hero that can take a few hits, because I could see him attack lowest life, or you want to be very bursty, very bursty, and end this very fast. It depends on whether they went with a burst approach, which I fully expect they will do, honestly, or if they went with the damage over time effect, which I never did yet, but would be fairly interesting. Also, we talked about damage over time effects, and I still ran Control Purify. This is something that I will try for the first boss fight. I expect the first boss fight to be fairly easy for me, and then I might switch that to damage over time Purify. It is something that we'll have to consider. Also, we have to see if that's even worth it. If the enemy deals a ton of damage, well, in that case, we might just get bursted down by the damage over time effect, because even if you have damage over time Purify, and that's, by the way, a common misconception, this doesn't protect you against damage over time, you will still get that first hit. Most definitely will get that first hit. And I could see this boss and the minions inflicting multiple kinds of damage over time. Maybe we'll see bleed, maybe we'll see poison. That could also be a thing, or they will have their own skill effect. All of that is possible, and we'll have to see what happens there. I'm fairly confident, though, that it will not be that much of a problem. Well, at least not with this power level, because we have 83 million attack on this LFA. We have this beautiful roll. I set this up with Soul Power now. Soul Power, another story. I set full Soul Power on this LFA. Whole damage fire Giant Killer Hunter's Focus ends up with those stats, 55 crits. So it's a bit like a Star Expedition boss. Some lineup in, or some stat lineup that I would run against a Star Expedition boss as well. Skill damage very high, holy damage very high, crit damage. And then we have precision as well, 154. You could run it higher, but I don't think they gave the boss that much block. We won't find out, really. That's the problem. This time, we don't have any data mines. We didn't have any data mines for the second boss. We won't have any data mines for this boss. So we won't find out the ability through other means than just observing them. And of course, with that, it is quite difficult to find out the real block value. They might just say, okay, we'll basically guarantee that the boss will block by giving him, I don't know, 300% block, unless you debuff him, which is cool, I guess. I mean, this is interesting, for sure. Making the boss always block unless you scale the precision on your team, or you debuff his block stat with DGN and maybe HHA. That could also be a very interesting mechanic. But for now, this is probably what I'm going to run. Mainly using that I have those heroes with Divine Power, and running a pretty high Divine Power average here on my heroes. Pretty defensive artifacts on everything other than LFA. And then after seeing the first boss, I will develop in one direction or the other. The main thing, though, is, and the main goal is, to not lose. I don't want to lose. We have a bit of wiggle room to lose, because, well, you have 3 attempts per day. So we can do boss 1 to 3 on day 1, then 4 to 6 on day 2, 7 to 9 day 3, and then we basically have 3 attempts for the 10th boss. So if we lost some stage in between, it's not that bad. We will still beat boss 10 on the same day that other people get the first try on it. We can't lose too much, though, and that is really the main thing here. We don't have too much. We have 2 attempts that we can throw away. and I don't intend to throw them away any earlier than on the last stage. So this is really my main concern. I want to get on this leaderboard and beat it on the 4th day after it's released. That's very important for me. I want to give you guys an early look at a Nirvana hero, because that is also something that we will see then, and we can take a small look at that. My transition temple basically looks like this at the moment: Chaos Core, Polystar, and the thing is, as soon as I upgrade this Star Alchemist Tom Xiang, which I already explained will be my first Nirvana hero, from Core to Polystar, we can do the Polystar 100, that is, we can do the next upgrade in the temple, and that will unlock our first Nirvana hero. You can see it there, it goes from 0 to 1, also 1 more divine power. And then I could take the materials from, for example, TBB to upgrade my Star Alchemist Tom Xiang to Destiny's rank 6. And of course that will be a very cool video, and I want to make that as early as possible, just to show you guys what a Destiny rank 6 hero can really do in PvP and PvE. So yeah, show you the team one more time. If you want to take a look at it, take a screenshot or something. It is not too special in my opinion. Can't really show it in total. I will do it like that. So take a look at that. I'm using the Lion pet here. Has some crit damage reduction, has some shields. Could also use Wolf. We have Poison, so that would be an option. And we also have Bleed, so we have a lot of options really for a monster. But I guess that the Lion is a very conservative choice, and we'll do just that. So yeah, let me know in the comments what you think about the new boss. Do you think it will be released tomorrow? I'm not very sure about this, but I just want to be prepared. Or do you think it will be released later? How far in the Void Temple are you? Okay, I don't know if you heard that, but my dog just decided that he wants to jump against the door. I closed the door to make the video, because otherwise he can be very annoying. Okay, anyway, write me down in the comments how far you got on the Void bosses and how far you got in the Void Temple. And with that, I wish you guys a great day. We'll see us in the next one.